Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're digging into how Scotland reacted to this latest UK-EU deal.
That's right. Keir Starmer pitched it as a win-win, didn't he?
He did, but when you actually look closer, it's definitely more complicated than that.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
We've got viewpoints from, the Scottish Fishermen's Federation, Salmon Scotland, and of course the Scottish government itself.
Exactly. So our mission today is to kind of unpack these different takes. What are the real trade-offs here for Scotland?
Well, what jumps out straight away is just how different the reactions are. I mean, you have the Scottish Fishermen's Federation. They've basically accused the UK government of capitulation.
Strong words, capitulation.
So what's driving that, do you think?
It likely boils down to specifics in the deal. Things like fishing quotas, maybe access to their traditional fishing grounds in EU waters,
No.
stuff that directly hits their bottom line, their catches, market access.
Right. And that feels like a completely different planet compared to Salmon Scotland. They're
Hmm.
actually welcoming the deal.
Yeah, quite the contrast. They're highlighting specifically the hope for less red tape.
hmm Which suggests they're anticipating, smoother exports, maybe fewer bureaucratic holdups, getting their product to the EU market.
So straight off the bat, we see different sectors feeling the impact in very, very different ways.
And connecting that, the UK government did announce that 360 million fund for coastal communities.
Okay, yeah.
But the big question is, for those fishermen who feel, let down by the quota details or access rules, is that fund going to feel like enough compensation? Is it seen as adequate?
Good question, a very good question. And then, layered on top of all this, you've got the Scottish government's position.
Right. They've sort of acknowledged, okay, closer UK-EU cooperation in some areas is, well, it's welcome.
But fundamentally, their goal hasn't changed, has it? They still want back in the EU.
Exactly. And they see Scottish independence as the pathway to achieve that. Though, interestingly, the sources we looked at suggest maybe the sort of energy around the independence debate itself has cooled off a bit recently.
Which adds another layer. But their core political aim, EU membership, that really frames their view of any UK-EU deal, doesn't it?
It has to. So even if they welcome bits of cooperation, the overall deal is never going to fully align with their primary objective.
And that brings us to the consultation point they raised.
Yeah, their argument that they should have been consulted, even though, technically, foreign affairs is a reserved matter for the UK Parliament.
It highlights that ongoing tension, that dynamic between Edinburgh and London. Didn't they talk about a reset in relations earlier?
They did, yeah. Suggests an attempt at maybe better communication channels. But clearly, on fundamental things like this deal or Scotland's relationship with Europe, the disagreements are still very much there.
So it really hammers home this theme of trade-offs, doesn't it? You just can't avoid them.
Pretty much impossible.
Looking at these Scottish reactions, it's clear. Any international agreement, it creates winners and losers. You've got the fishing industry's disappointment right up against the salmon sector's, well, optimism.
And all that playing out against the backdrop of the Scottish government's much broader, long-term political ambitions.
Precisely. There's just no single deal that's going to make everyone happy, especially when, the basic goals are so fundamentally different.
The fishermen feel specific parts of the deal didn't protect their interests, probably around quotas and access. The salmon guys see real, tangible wins in, less paperwork, easier trade.
And the Scottish government is looking at the whole thing through that prism of eventual EU membership, a completely different calculation.
Yep, different priorities entirely.
So thinking about all these varied reactions, these different political pressures within a devolved system like the UK, what does this whole episode really tell you about just how complex it is to navigate international deals while trying to balance all these diverse national and regional interests?
It's incredibly tricky, a real balancing act. And sometimes maybe it's impossible to balance perfectly.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for this deep dive.